Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yes? Wonderful. So let's start with a short meditation to come together. And I will keep my eyes open because I need to keep letting people in. But please, the invitation is for you to close your eyes and forget about the screen. No need to look at it. I want to welcome into this space. And first of all, I invite you to connect with your breathing. And with the weight of your body connected to the chair, the bed, the floor, wherever you are sitting. My invitation is to connect with that form that you are, that body, that it's you. And imagine, feel, visualize, for those that are here, for those watching the recording, that we are all together in a big circle. A big circle of light beyond time and space. And it's a soul gathering. It's a soul gathering where, apart from these bodies and these minds, we also bring our souls into the picture. And there's a soul intelligence, and there are soul movements. And a meeting like this is very much connected to the soul. Imagine your body is inside your mind and inside your soul. And for it not to be an abstraction, let's imagine that you were inside a holoquantum bubble of light, a bubble of light. The most healing color is violet. Is the color that is more connected to the crown chakra and to healing. In science, it's the ultraviolet light. And the red light, it's in the root on the opposite side of the column. And it's connected to the ground, connected to the earth. And the violet connected to the heavens. So I invite you to visualize, feel, imagine that above we are connected to the heavens and below to the earth. And lastly, before we start our gathering, I invite you to imagine, feel, visualize that this violet light impregnated the whole space, the whole gathering, the whole meeting. And we are going to call that violet light grace. There's a field of grace that we humans forget and that it belongs to us. There's an intelligence in it, a higher intelligence, and we can choose to be in that field. It's a field that we cannot fake. It's a field that is connected to the soul. And if the soul was to gravitate somewhere, it would gravitate towards grace. So I invite you to call in, embrace, acknowledge this grace that belongs to you and to me. Imagine the room where you are, or the car, or the garden, wherever you are, it's filled up with this grace. It's coming through the walls, touching your friends and family, your neighborhood. Imagine your lower back could fully relax, so your shoulders. And we invite this grace. We acknowledge this grace. So this morning, what we do here is for the highest good, the highest truth, and the highest healing. What is good for one is good for all. I invite you to inhale deeply, all this grace in, and exhale. And I invite you to clap your hands and create a lot of heat. And wash your face from anything that doesn't need to be on your face. And separate your hands from your face, looking into those lines that tell your many pasts and your many futures. And I invite you to bring them together in prayer mudra, and we bow down at each other as a sign of respect. Welcome. I'm very excited to be here, and so nice to see you. It's the best on a Sunday morning. So thank you for being. And if you're watching this, also welcome. And this morning we are going to talk and do some practice about reconciliation, okay? So first of all, I will say just a little bit about me and why this work. So when I was born in a family where my system, my mom and dad, belong to two very different realities, very different political realities, very different financial realities, and very different systems with very different challenges. And that was quite confusing for me when I was little. Bear in mind, I was born also just after a dictatorship, and the dictatorship was a fascist dictatorship, and the dictatorship was just after a civil war. Yes, I know many of you come from World War. Spain was not part of that. Spain had its own war inside, which creates a whole different idiosyncrasy. So that's why I was, very confused when I was little. The confusion remained for a very long time. Sometimes I still do get confused. It's part of who I am. And what the constellations brought was a lot of understanding and a lack of this confusion disappears because I understood many things. I've been practicing it for 13 years, but it's the first time that I share it like this, because I'm very stubborn, or I was, resisted to understand that there was an order in life, and that a systemic order. A systemic order means that all systems have an order. And when I was studying other traditions and other forms of spiritual intelligence, it got very clear to me that there is almost a mathematical order behind our reality, no? I say almost, but no, there's a mathematical order. And when you look into the constellations, into the systems, you can see that. And I've seen it at work. I've been part of so many constellations. I've guided constellations, and I'm always in awe because you need to see the constellation, the systems they require silence, and the soul moves in the constellation. I'm not talking about the practice itself. We are all the time constellating in our lives. We just don't realize. So a little bit more about an experience. So when I arrived to Spain, I had a crazy problem with one of my teeth that I haven't finished resolving until very recently. And the tooth didn't have it was like an electric fuse. It went like plof. And I went to a therapist specialized in holistic dentistry, and I long story short, I found out it was connected to a great grandmother. So couple of years later, I go to the place where my great grandmother was, where she gave birth to my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, and where her husband, just before the Civil War, was assassinated because he took the body of the fascist neighbor who they had killed in front of his house, and he couldn't leave his body there. He took it to his family, and that morning, a friend, a neighbor, called on the door and said, "Can I borrow your rifle?" And he said, "Yes." And then he said to my great grandmother, "I think I've ruined our lives." Not for giving him the rifle, for taking the body, and then the rifle kind of symbolized that. That evening, they knocked on the door and they killed him with his own rifle. And my great grandmother gave birth 5 days later, and the brother, my grandfather's brother, who was by the door, he had a nervous problem for the rest of his life. And then she had to go to another part of Spain with 6 children as the war started. And, maybe I wouldn't exist because she moved where my grandmother was. And here I am talking in front of you all about all of this. So here I am, 2019, my tooth explodes like a fuse. I go to this therapist and she tells me, great grandmother, and she gives me a lot of details, crazy details. One, was your great grandfather killed at the war or something like that? Was your great grandmother giving birth in a difficult situations like this? So I'm university trained. I was very logical. So I was like, this is super crazy. And this friend didn't know anything about me. She was a therapist friend, no? So I went to this part of Spain 2 years later. I found the house. I found a historian. I found who was my great grandfather, and we went to his house, no? And I wanted to show you. This is the door where they killed him. This is some flowers. This is the year after I did ceremony at this door. I've gone twice to this place. So that's the house. And the following year, this is my daughter taking this picture. They had put this sign who said not to macho violence. I thought it was like, how crazy. And to finish the story, I've met someone here, this is quite far from where I'm from, who my great-grandfather saved his life and many other people's life with some friends. My great-grandfather saved their life because, because the Republicans took the fascist people to the cinema. They were going to assassinate them. And then my great-grandfather and two other men went there and stood before them and they said, you kill us before if you are going to kill them. And this friend of mine, this new friend of mine, and I were talking and we were like, oh my God, this is crazy. My great-grandfather saved your great-grandfather. And, you know, you can only see the field of grace working. And that's why I've dared to put this work out to you, because I definitely know that it works. Am I saying that this type of thing is going to happen to you? Not really, because for me it was just a confirmation. I don't do fireworks about this, even if it didn't happen in my own life, in other people's life, I've seen changes, no? And this shows you that there's an order. This shows you that one of the orders of love, because you see there are forces of love running between us, especially in family systems. And sometimes those forces are blocked. Sometimes people have created narratives, or people are loyal to other people that have left. In my case, I was loyal to my great-grandmother. And I was living very much a life that could mirror my great-grandmother. I even had one of my very good boyfriends. He had the same date of birth as my great-grandfather. So it's as crazy as that. So these forces of love move us, and the system, what it only wants is to be seen with love and that everyone belongs. And we come from ancestors who had difficulties and didn't have ways to deal with trauma. So we've inherited traumas that are from our system, but they don't belong to us. And the same thing happens with illnesses. You need to see when there's an illness in the system, it's not just that person who has the illness, it's the whole system. So when there's diabetes, you can say, oh, we are genetically open to have diabetes. Yes, but the diabetes comes from a thought and comes from a feeling. What we have in our system is maybe people that don't let themselves enjoy life. What we have in the system is maybe people who hate. What we have in the system is maybe people who get abused, who abuse others, who exile, who don't let themselves love, who don't let themselves just face life and adversity with joy. More or less, all systems have some level of pathologies. And what we are trying to do here is looking at the system and bringing healing to the system and to our lives. And the part that you need to understand when we are talking about this philosophy is that the whole idea is freedom, okay? Freedom of thought and freedom of fulfilling your own destiny. I wasn't fulfilling my own destiny. I thought I was completely. I was fulfilling my great-grandmother's destiny. I was fulfilling my auntie's destiny. In my case, particular case, I was connected to many, many people in my system. So the whole idea is to bring coherence and congruence in the system. So you live your destiny. So you liberate your children from living anyone else's destiny. Because this has an impact in your financial reality, in your health reality, in your relational reality. And understanding this, that takes some time, and even practicing it brings a lot of adulthood. Because you see, what Bert Hellinger, who is the man that lived among the Zulus and decoded this understanding, I've studied the Hawaiians, and they have very similar understanding, and they are two peaceful societies. What stands out is the idea that beyond who are the goodies and the baddies, what's morally good and not, humans need to belong, want to belong. And if they don't, because they are excluded, they have to be remembered by the following generations. I explain with another example from my life. My mom's brother, she's the eldest, was taken by a truck in his garden, and the truck driver drove away. And I knew that was in the family, fine. But then, through my life, I was very scared always in the car to have a car accident or to run over somebody. And I didn't link the two together, but it was almost neurotic. I did constellate it, and this truck driver, who was a real body and really bad person in my head, was in my constellation. And what came in the constellation was the guilt and the shame that this family carried from what happened. And nobody knew any of this. It was coming from the constellation. So I was so attached in the past. This is good and this is bad. You do good, you do good. I would never do that. She does that. And it's this finger pointing, no, that we do. These are the baddies, I'm the goodie. I would never do that. She does that. And all these stories, no? And there's a reality, a soul reality that we will never understand. I don't understand it. We will never understand it. I don't think we have even permission to understand it. There's a bigger reality, and what every single tradition on the planet worth your time in terms of human peace speaks is about blessing. Yes, about blessing. And blessing comes from the Latin bendecire. And bendecire means bene, good, and cire, say, to say good, to bless. It's very similar to benediction. Yeah? which is when you receive blessing no matter what. And you and I cannot give a benediction. That's for, enlightened beings. But we can play with this and we can imagine what would be to bless our system, to bless the things that happened in our system, to bless the dead in our system, and those that were exiled in our system, those that had mental problems, and we might never know, those that were raped, and we might never know. Some of those raped women, mostly women, although many men have been raped too, were forced to marry the rapist to preserve the honor of the family. Yeah, many people were starving. Many people had to change surnames when they emigrated. Many people had to do many things. Some of them committed adultery, and their future generations, many people say, I don't know why I only meet married men or married women. I don't know why I'm always the lover. I don't know why all these abortions in my family. I don't know why I hate this so much. Can you see there's a lot of questions like this, and you go to therapy like for 1,000 years and nothing really gets there. And the point here is not to find out every little single detail, because that would just be crazy, but it's just to understand that there's an order of things right now, and that the present life that we have is what we have. And from fighting it, we cannot change absolutely anything. I think the outside world is a real show of this that I'm talking, no? So this extends to everyone in our system. And who are part of our system? Our system is all our family system, all that have been birthed and are alive. All that haven't been birthed, all the miscarriages and abortions, all that harmed my family, and all those that my family harmed. There are trillions of examples when there's been constellations with countries in war, at war. Yes? Those that my system have done good, and those that have done good to my system. See this new friend here. The moment I resolve the constellation, this is revealed. Someone who my great-grandfather saved his life, and that she still remembers, because that story has been passed through generations. So she belongs to my system. That's the way the morphic field has attracted us together. All my partners, they belong to my system, and I belong to their systems. Yeah? And what happens when you don't consider, or when you've disrespected, or when you have exiled your partners, previous partners, if that's happened, then children can bring those partners into the picture. I remember once a woman had a child. The child had very strong skin problems, and she had had 3 partners, and she had had an abortion with each partner. And now she felt really bad because she didn't understand. She was really sad that the child was suffering. When you constellated that, you could see that she had done those 3 abortions. She had left these 3 men, and the child was bringing the men and the other children into the picture. And she had to do like works, so much work to bring order into that. And there's the case when people just don't want to. There's the case when people even believe they need to self-sacrifice for the disorder that was created. So, and those children, first few children, those partners were never considered in her constellation. She always felt victimized by the whole thing. Well, she was the one who left them, and she was the one who committed the abortions. So she couldn't be liberated from that, and it was her child who had to bring that to her. In my own personal case, my ex-husband's last girlfriend, I remember I didn't like her. I hadn't met her, but I was just, I guess, a bit jealous, and it was a bit weird, the whole thing. The thing is that I rejected her. And then my daughter, many years later, I had forgotten even about the woman who kept coming into our relationship quite a bit. And then my daughter had this fixation with changing her colors. Like, I would like this color and that color and that. And then I realized that what I knew about this woman was that she was changing always head color. And I was like, oh my God. And the point here is not the synchronicity. The point here is that I realized that I had exiled that woman from our lives, no? And I had already divorced him and many things, but I went into practice. I did some systemic work to see that person, no? To see her, to honor her, and to let her go, and to bless her. And that opened so much healing into our family, and so much healing into the understanding. You need to see with these things. And this is where people, especially if they have a religious background, find it very difficult. That was my case. When we are talking about this, we are not talking about justifying. See that I don't mention the word forgiveness. We are not finding, forcing anyone to feel what it doesn't feel. The whole idea is to bring order. The whole idea is the truth. Who am I to exile that woman? She was part of my ex-partner's past, and I was just bringing her to my present. So much that my daughter brought her memory into the picture. And for those that have a lot of fire, who are Pitta, this might be like a fight with it. I don't ask you to believe me. I ask you to practice it. And I know many of you who study with me and work with me, you've seen things. I can see some has even had some dreams that have revealed stuff. And some others have found also things that have revealed to them stuff to be seen. And that brings order, nothing else. You are not being forced to love your enemy. I thought I was being forced to be okay with the one that killed my great-grandfather. I was at the door saying like, wow, I was with some shakers. They were construction work, so I was completely safe to do my shamanic thing in the daytime with my daughter, lighting candles and some shakers, kind of moving the energy. And then I thought, I invoked the field of grace. How can I? Because I didn't know. I had been always indoctrinated with the idea of forgiveness, like be okay with everything that happens. And it's not that. It's not that. So if you think it's not, it's not. And there are so many layers. So I don't believe, I believe as we do more work with including everyone, the more the heart really opens, and that's an alchemy. And that cannot be taught by absolutely anyone. But the world really needs it. The world needs this. The world needs reconciliation. Yes, it needs to. What does that mean for us, ordinary people, no? To bring order in our systems, to bring order in our realities. Yeah, another case, I had someone with a schizophrenia. Yeah, really bad schizophrenia. People were really, really, the family was destroyed. Yeah, schizophrenia, and I did a constellation, and you could see that this woman was identifying with a killer and the victim. And there was a whole movement, and she stopped being sick. She stopped the schizophrenia. Yeah, when there's a schizophrenia, there's a killing. When there's a lot of compulsion in cleaning, especially if it's women, there's probably rape in the family. There's rape in all systems. And when the compulsion with cleanliness, it's not a compulsion, it overtakes the person, there's that. If there's the stigma of poverty in your system, it doesn't matter how much money you've got or not, there's extreme worry with money. Extreme. I've sent emails that you've probably seen about talking about the father, talking about, of course, it's very extensive, but the stigma of poverty can be like that. Compulsive disorder in washing hands is connected with killing. And don't believe me, I've seen it over and over in constellations, over and over and over. I remember another case that the child was very depressed, wouldn't be able to, to do anything in life. And long story short, the constellation showed this little boy was German, that the grandfather had killed a German soldier, and the child was connected to the German soldier. And I could, we will go deep into these stories. I will share them with you. And another story that this got really deep in my heart, 13-year-old, anorexic and diabetic. Imagine. The little girl already developing signs of stories with food. It was shown how the Northern Irish grandmother suffered the famine so bad, and that has been totally forgotten from the family. The children were kind of compensating and bringing that in, and when that awareness got more and more in the family, the child stopped being anorexic, and the diabetes went into levels that were very, very manageable. So there's a mystery, there's a systemic order that can work in organizations, in companies, in our families. And this year, until June, when I talk about year, I'm talking 2025, 26, is an open window, according to astrology and different traditions, to bring peace, to work with ancestors. And ancestors can be very benign and not. So what we want is their blessing to look at us with kind eyes so we can fulfill our destiny, not theirs, and they can rest in peace. Yeah? So, and what we want is also strong children. Strong children come because we are holding that from behind, where we are not living our lives for them. You might not have children, but you might have nieces or nephews or younger people that you coach and that you work with. This is very useful, whether it's something that it affects you or not, directly or not, no? Because it's an understanding. And then through these lenses, you can understand dynamics that are beyond what you can do. Beyond what you can do. So, in this systemic order, we also bring order to bereavement. Yes? What was happening to my great-grandmother? Her bereavement was for all her life. Yes? So, my father had that in his system. My mother had that in his system. And I was born with that in my system. Did I know that? No idea. Would you ask me 20 years ago if that was my reality? No. Did that live in me? Yes. Have I seen it over and over in people? Yes. So the point here is to understand that bereavement, I need to honor her and see her pain. But I don't need to carry that. I can fulfill my own destiny. Yes. Was my grandmother grieving for his children? Their children? Yes. Did I see her always very sad? Yes. But that was her destiny, not necessarily mine. Do these people need to be seen with love? Yes. Whether we like it or not. So if we think I would have done any better, what we make them is small. If we think we can do better than our parents with their destiny that they did have, we are making them small. And that's very dishonoring. And I know how difficult this is. If you see your parents or you've seen your parents doing things you think you wouldn't do, but that's none of our business. It's like if your children in the future, they look at you knowing better, or younger generations, if you haven't got children. It's what for many generations they are doing with the eldest, especially in the West. The Japanese don't do that. That's why the eldest are very respected. Don't think that's just don't naturalize certain things for the sake of it. See how the Japanese respect the elders. In the West, we don't. And people who are intellectually young need to look at the elders with respect. Now, what happens? The elders need to take the right place. That's order. Yeah? I constellated with a woman who said she had great relationship with her mother, but she had loads of money problems. And in the constellation, what happened was that the mother was in front of her, not at the back. So she felt she had to take care of her mom. She was always with her mom. She was taking care of her mom. So there was no order in the love. Yeah, she wasn't loving her mom from the right place. So money couldn't come in. And like that, there's loads of examples. So how do we love? I can love from Sole's place. Jen can love from Jen's place. Or Ray can love from Ray's place. But we can all love from the place of my grandmother, or making my mom small, or taking care of my mom like if she was my child. You see? So the other day, a new girl they've asked me for help in Holly's school, because there's a girl who has issues with psychological issues. And the mother and the stepdad have just arrived here. But the mother is leaving the country to go with her father, who is sick. The one that she needs to take care of, the daughter. She's in front. The father is at the back. She's treating the father as the front. The father is taking the place of the child. And the child is having psychological problems. There's disorder. She can love her father a lot, whatever, there's disorder. We need to look into these generations. Are we saying don't help the other generations? No, we are saying there's an order. And in that order, things can flow. In that order, you can find solutions, because I'm sure there are solutions, but the father cannot take, the grandfather cannot take the place of the child. It's having psychological problems, and God knows what is coming. Can you see? So that's the order we are calling for. So we are going to do an exercise with something that is relatively easy, because if we work with mother, father, grandparents, that takes more time, no? But it's easier to work with the excess of our partners, and if we haven't got partners, with the excess of our last relationship. See how interesting it got my attention. The ex is almost like exile, isn't it? It's the same in Spanish. So the previous partners, let's name that. The previous partners, it doesn't matter if you, because you can say, well, I was with my partner since I was 20, so I only had a boyfriend when I was 15. It's okay, yeah? Because you are doing it for your families, for all your grandparents' exes, and all the lovers, and all those people that are sideways to our family systems. And if you've got children, also for the previous partners of your child. You know how hard it is if your child brings you a partner, and then that partner, they break up, and suddenly you leave. And suddenly they leave, and you don't see them again, probably. Or you were like that with someone else. So open your mind that it's for all the people, yeah, that had been with the other partner and with our ancestors. So don't worry that I will guide you. It will be easy. So let's open the field, okay? Close your eyes. And imagine in front of you, there's your partner or your other relationships, and there's your parents, if they had previous relationships, sometimes we don't know. Or if they had lovers, we don't know. So imagine all these men and women are in front of you. And you are going to say, if you can, in loud voice, still with your eyes closed, repeat after me, looking at them in your mind's eye. I invite you to not look at the screen because it can distract you. Connect with these ex-partners, with previous partners, and say, I honor you. I honor you and I respect you. You were all needed. So I can take my right place. I say thanks to you for having gone before me. And I can sit now in my right place, and I bless you. I free you from myself. I free you from my ancestors. I free you from all that come after me. Me for myself. Now I give myself permission to occupy my right place. And feel into the body, see what's happening in the body. And inhaling deeply and checking it out. So many things can have happened. Maybe nothing. Maybe you felt something in the body. Maybe an image came up. Maybe a realization. Maybe nothing, and you have a dream. But because these stories can be less intense than others, this is an example of including people that they belong. They belong to the system, no? They belong to where we are, to our lives. And like we say, I bless you and I free you from myself. We are freeing. We are not hooking to anyone, no? So, yes, I think it would be nice to hear you, to see if anyone wants to share something that they have felt during this, or some insight, or some experience that you've had. It would be very interesting. Anyone would like to speak? I cannot see everyone, so lift the little hands or just unmute yourself. Nothing? Nada?
Hi. Hola.
Yes, that happens when we go so deep. Sometimes we can become speechless. Maria, I see you unmuted. You want to say something, no?
Yes. Um, yeah, I just want
Uh,
to share
your
with you.
your mic.
Hi, now is
No,
working?
can anyone hear Maria? Yes? Oh, I can't. Sorry, Maria, it's me.
It's okay.
Okay?
No, but I can speak. Can I speak?
1 second. I cannot. 1 second, eh?
Uh-huh.
Now I can.
Now, okay. Now, I just want to share that your story really touched me solely because I came from a family, same. Like, I born in Spain. I also have this history past about the Civil War. And I also born in a family that my dad's part is from the left side and poor, kind of. And my mom right side and kind of rich people. And I was listening to you and I started to cry. I feel now, wow, it's really very strong because the last years I was working a lot with these stories. I don't know, I was living in Brazil and I came back to Spain. Something calls me about my family and my ancestors. We were talking about this with Sole, but I couldn't speak a lot with you also about all of this because I discovered all of this. And yes, I did a lot of constellations. I had a illness in my ear, and the first constellation that I did, it shows up something about this, like something about the reconciliation with one of part of my family and the other part of my family, and also about the war. So it touched me a lot. So like, I feel like there is something that I really need to work about. I really would like to go deeper uh, because I really feel really connected with about the constellation work. And I always feel like I really want to also study the constellation, and also maybe sometimes in the future, yeah, accompany people with the constellation. But yeah, I just wanted to share about my story because it really touched me. And also, I have another story of my grandmother. I don't know, like she was living in Barcelona, and at some point, I went to Barcelona with a calling. I went to the cemetery and said thank you to her. I was searching her in the cemetery, and it's crazy because something calls me. It feels like I couldn't decide. It was like I need to do it. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Wow, so it's very strong.
you're very psychic, no? And very psychic people really have this ancestral calling to make order. Many of the events that might happening to you as pattern and loops, and that are repetitions of previous generations. It's a calling for stopping this war inside of us and with others, no? And it's a very delicate process that you cannot push or apply ideas. The best way to learn constellations is to do them, because to be a good constellator, you have had to constellate a lot and to look at the systems without agendas, without therapeutic approach. This is not a therapy. There's no therapy here, because here people have their destinies. Yeah, we all have a destiny. And the whole idea is to allow everyone to fulfill their destiny, to allow your mom to fulfill your destiny, to allow your parents, your sisters, your brothers, your children. Everyone has the right to live their destiny. So careful the helpers and the carers wanting to get on the way of that. We bring healing to us. It's our constellation, but we let people live their destiny. That's and honor that. That's what we do with the dead. I see, if I was, oh my God, if I look at my great grandmother, no? Oh my God, I'm so sorry for you. You suffered so much. I wish things had been different. What a horrible killer. I want avenging. If I did that, I'm making her small. You see? And that's what, the programs in the system is. I honor you. I see your difficult destiny. I see it and I honor it and I bless it. Look at me. And as I say this, it's a prayer to our ancestors. Look at me with kind eyes, with blessing eyes. Bless my destiny. I bless yours. Yes, and I'm aware many of us have had many difficulties in our families. We are coming from war, famine, sexual deprivation. So, of course, we all carry these things. But the whole idea is to bring love, to let people live in the right places. And I think that's reconciliation, no? That's how we can release so much burden. So much burden. And we see the impact in finances, we see the impact in health, we see the impact, yeah? And I've seen you, Maria, no? It's great work you've been overcoming stuff. So thank you so much for sharing. And hello, Brazil. Anyone would like to share? Maybe nothing so personal, but maybe some ideas or what really strikes you, what you find difficult to see, anything? No? So,
I'll share, Solly.
Jen, yes, because I don't see everyone, so thank you.
I'm just reflecting on what happened for me when we just did that small exercise. That I felt my body really relax. And I realized that I'd been holding a lot of jealousy towards these exes, like unnecessary. But I felt in, and that's what I'd been holding. And yeah, it was about like feeling that I wasn't my place to feel jealousy. I wasn't in that time when they were around. They needed to be there. It was quite interesting, just like seeing that jealousy and then realizing that it's unnecessary. And maybe I've released that a little bit. It felt very relaxing.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. Very powerful. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. In my case, the first time that I did it, I was with someone else. I explained because this will be another way we do it. And I give you the word Cilicia. And thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Yes. Okay, Daniel, thank you so much. Daniel has to go. And Cilicia, I'll give you the words. But I just say briefly, the first time I did it, what surprised me wasn't what I was feeling for those women that I did. I've explained to you. It was what some of those women had felt for me because I was the previous girlfriend. And I could see a couple of women who had looked at me with a lot of hatred and how I had taken it. And so, yeah, it has many colors. So thank you, Jen, for sharing. Thank you for opening that. And Cilicia, hello.
Hi, Solly. Yeah, what I thought was really interesting is a little bit what you've just said there is the exes or the new partners of the exes, how they can impact our system. And yeah, my experience has been that whenever I have partners, it always seems to be other women or exes that seem to be trying to influence what's going on in the relationship to the point of quite abusive. And really manipulative, and I found that quite interesting. So in the meditation, I did feel that, like, obviously I did some work around that, and they came in, and to bless them. So it was interesting. But I don't know a lot about my family. This is the thing, all my grandparents and
No, it's that's why you constellated. You don't really need to know a lot. But something like that, if it happens, it needs to be constellated to see what happens there with the other women, no? The other women. Because that keeps repeating. So it's a good thing. So thank you, Cilicia.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And we have to go now, but I would like to share with you that we are gonna go deep in this with constellations, with shamanic rituals for the dead, for the system, and we start on the 25th of September. And from tomorrow, I'm going to be offering 9 days of surrender practice. Yes, because children cannot do this work. The child in us cannot do any of this. It's too painful, it's too emotional, but the adult surrenders. The adult surrenders, which doesn't mean submitting, surrenders to life and say yes to life, surrenders to not understanding everything, surrenders to the order, so we can, fulfill high destinies, beautiful destinies, where we can have very strong tools to manage our lives, no? It's and to let the soul make its movements, not just directed from here. So for those in the community, will be in the community, and for those and everyone is in the WhatsApp group, I will put it there. It's an everyday 2 minutes video where we will do a surrender practice that I find super interesting to tune into the work. And then on the 25th, we start the new program that I will also send you information. So that's that. I will be in England and Germany as well, doing some in-person work. So thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely morning and evening. And remember that I love the and remember that this is in the field of grace. We cannot do this alone. There's grace. Let's invite always grace. So thank you. Bye-bye.